If you've ever driven on the highways leading into Chicago, there's a decent chance that you looked up for a moment and realized that a fully loaded jetliner was crossing what appears to be an otherwise typical highway viaduct right over your head. Seriously, nearly every Chicagoan has encountered this, and yet most people don't know the fascinating story behind it. One shaped by the city's relentless growth, its larger role in a hyper-connected America, and the slow undoing of the railroad era. So why exactly does Chicago's highway have airplane bridges, and when did this unusual arrangement come to be? Stay tuned to find out as we uncover the peculiar story of Chicago's airplane bridges. I'm your host Ryan Sokash, and you're watching It's History. Let's start with a simple fact. Chicago has always outgrown its own transportation systems. From the start of the 19th century, horse-drawn carriages clogged downtown so badly that streetcar tracks had to be laid to restore order. In turn, that solution, the streetcars themselves, crippled downtown. So what did City Hall do? Well, they ordered engineers to lift entire railways into the air, creating the elevated lines that still define the loop, meaning trains now went above trams, and this helped out, but the two layers, well, it simply wasn't enough. You see, freight congestion became so severe that Chicago constructed more than 60 miles of underground tunnel to move goods beneath the surface. This resulted in an entire logistics network hidden below the sidewalks. I should also add that the city introduced subway tunnels and an entirely underground pedestrian network called the Pedway. And just when the puzzle pieces seemed to be in place, the city entered the automobile age. And with that, the downtown road system also needed to become multi-level. The best example of this is the city's main artery, Wacker Drive, which offers upper Wacker for local access, lower Wacker for express passage, and lower Wacker for freight. Even so, cars brought on yet another unforeseen change. They enabled a mass commuting class that preferred the quiet of the suburbs to the chaos of the city. So highways became the next solution, carving direct, high-speed routes into the city center and rendering older transit methods increasingly obsolete, to the point that by the post-war era, this had become the preferred mode of transportation, and for better or for worse, the winning fit. But it doesn't end there, since yet another mode of transportation was forming overhead. Of course, I'm talking about air travel. Aviation was no longer a curiosity, it was a necessity. In Chicago's first major airfields, Ashburn Field, Maywood, and later Midway, handled early commercial flights, but they couldn't support the demands of a nation moving faster every decade. Moreover, as Chicago is more or less geographically located towards the heart of America, it wanted to be for the jet age what it once was for railroads, the ultimate crossroad. Remember, for any city, and especially one operating on a national or global scale, interconnected logistics mean everything. The tax revenue generated by the constant flow of people and goods became a way to extend the city's influence far beyond its borders, and this idea is nothing new. You see, for centuries, empires built castles, toll gates, and fortified checkpoints for that same purpose, to capture value from whatever passed through their territory. So it was in that context that the city needed a larger, modern airport, and the former Douglas Military Airfield northwest of the town became the solution. Originally built during World War II as the Douglas Aircraft C-54 production plant, the site featured long concrete runways, oversized hangars, and sufficient open land to expand in all directions. And although its landscape has since been completely transformed, its former code, ORD, actually survives as O'Hare's modern airport identifier, kind of a token to the past. Anyhow, with Midway already boxed in on all sides, this airfield offered Chicago exactly what it needed: room to grow into a world-class international gateway. It would therefore be renamed O'Hare and expanded aggressively into the region's primary hub. But it wasn't as simple as it sounds, since expansion brought a problem that Chicago had faced many times before. Despite the fact that O'Hare was better positioned, it was surrounded by highways, and solving the problem of how to operate an airport in the context of those, well, it wasn't exactly easy. And here's the contrasting factor. Entire neighborhoods were taken by eminent domain, and in places like Bensonville or Elk Grove, parts of the village were razed. In fact, a century-old cemetery was also relocated to clear space for new runways and taxiways. So O'Hare basically expanded into the suburbs, whereas the highways, well, those were vital infrastructure. So it would be here that Chicago history would repeat itself, as one form of transportation would have to pass above another. Beginning in the 1960s, airport leadership and city planners recognized that to accommodate increasing passenger and cargo volumes, ground-sided connectivity had to keep pace with air traffic growth, meaning runways and taxiways would need to extend beyond the airport's original core. And as we've already alluded to, some of those routes would cross over major public roadways leading into town. So, in response, in 1966 and 67, O'Hare built its very first aircraft bridge, a taxiway bridge spanning the eastern leg of the Kennedy Expressway. The structure was engineered as a composite steel girder bridge, which was 226 feet long and 125 feet wide, with a concrete deck capable of supporting the full weight of a jetliner. And although the bridge's appearance is ordinary, its design was anything but. In fact, it had to support the maximum gross weight of the era's emerging jumbo jets, including the upcoming Boeing 747. The bridge would need to somehow absorb all the stress of braking, thrust, and landing gear loads. And of course, all while allowing uninterrupted highway traffic to flow beneath it. And the result was remarkable. The bridge enabled O'Hare to integrate its expansion with the existing highway network, preserving both the expressway and the airfield, but without compromising either. And it warrants mentioning that construction of these early taxiway over highway bridges marked a turning point. From then on, O'Hare would treat the airfield and city infrastructure as layered systems coexisting in the same space. And of course, that same philosophy carried forward decades later during the O'Hare Modernization program. Beginning in 2001, the airport was rebuilt around a new parallel runway system, necessitating additional elevated taxiways. That's right, new aircraft bridges were added over additional roadways, each engineered to carry the largest generation of wide-body jets. By the time the program concluded in 2021, O'Hare had not just one airplane bridge, but several, all serving the same purpose: to keep aircraft moving without interrupting the highways and service roads beneath them. Today, airports worldwide have adopted a similar layered approach. Places such as Frankfurt, Dusseldorf, Hong Kong, Amsterdam, Atlanta, Heathrow, and even Shanghai routes aircraft across bridges that span highways, tunnels, or rail lines. What once seemed like an engineering oddity at O'Hare has since become a standard solution for airports pressed between growing cities and the global demands of air travel. So next time you find yourself driving under a passing jet, remember, you're not just seeing an airport. You're seeing the last chapter in a long story of a metropolis determined to keep moving no matter what stands in its way. We'll leave it there for today, but I hope you liked the episode. Otherwise, until next time, this is Ryan Sokash signing off.